r/AskReddit. Italians of Reddit, how do you feel about the way other countries are currently handling the pandemic? Italian here with the real question. Why toilet paper? We ran out of flour, yeast and mozzarella. That I can understand. Because you eat it. But toilet paper? Hey from Brazil. We're boned. Italian here. Nothing more to add. Just this. Stay home if you can. And stay safe. Italian here. Living in the north but we only have 16 cases in our 30,000 people town. So COVID looks distant. But the situation here is really serious. I'm glad our government, unfortunately but righteously seen as a joke abroad, has responded in such an heavy way, while other states were still having concerts and whatnot. Looking at you, France. Other than that, supermarkets are open, and they are almost fully stocked, so no big deal. The only semi-serious problem we have right now is that gas stations could close in the next days for a strike of the gas station guys. That cannot ensure a safe and healthy service for either the customers or themselves anymore. We'll wait and see. Italian here. Most countries wasted the time advantage they had. They could have locked down sooner and better, and they could have arranged more ICUs in their hospitals. They have been waiting for the wave to reach the shore and then started running, and USA is still staring the horizon. I'm proud of my country. I'm a New Zealander and we went into lockdown officially a couple days ago. We only had around 100 cases then and we went straight for a level 4 lockdown for a month. There's ads telling everyone what to do, how to do it and why we need to do it. Our leaders have also put a ban of rental companies evicting people for the next 5 months. I fucking love New Zealand. Live in Korea where things exploded before Italy. Wasn't surprised that Europe learned nothing from us, but it seems that other European countries learned nothing whatsoever from Italy and made all of the same mistakes. I mean, how stupid do you have to be to see it exploding in Italy a few weeks back and not even screen people flying in from Italy? Went through a lot of trouble at work because the government guidelines still stated that even if traveling back from an affected area, including China and Italy, we should go back to our daily lives and only stay home after, if we developed symptoms. I ended up self-isolating for the sake of my colleagues and their families. Half of them thought I was overreacting. Guidelines have changed since then, of course, but it baffles me how the baseline is always the same. No need for stricter lockdown until our hospitals are on the verge of collapse. I'm not very attached at all to my passport country, but I've been following Italian guidelines since the very beginning because it just feels irresponsible to be doing anything else. Italian here but living in Taiwan. All the countries have waited too much before to start reacting. Measures are implemented to avoid the already high rate of infection in the country. The problem have already spread pretty big when are putted in action measures that are reasonably very strict. Looking from here, all of this look kind of unbelievable. The Taiwanese government have taken a very proactive stance and started in January to screen incoming travelers, sever quarantine for all the suspected cases and tracking all the possible connection and quarantining them. There have been 252 cases and mostly from people coming back in the country. The life hasn't changed much. You can go anywhere but your temperature will probably be checked and there will be hand sanitizer for you to use. I'm from Croatia but I'm living in northern Italy for a while. When the virus appeared in China, no one in Italy took it seriously until they didn't realize that it's here. The same thing happened in Croatia when the virus appeared in Italy. The same thing happened all around the world. And now, it's too late. At Women's Day, Italy was 2 weeks in quarantine when France decided to make a party with 4,000 Smurfs and Spain make a protest with 120,000 feminists. Just saying. Italian here. I remember the French tearing us apart as usual. There was a French TV spot where someone took out of the oven a coronavirus-shaped pizza. Real funny, except even France isn't laughing now. Also, I was astounded and dumbfounded with England and their Prime Minister saying they would go for herd immunity or something of the like. English streets were busy for weeks while we were on lockdown. Stay safe everyone. I'm about to put on my mask and go to work. Italian here. I'd say that generally the news report that other countries are following our example by adopting those measures we implemented in the first place. So we are somewhat glad that other countries are doing their job. However, given the situation, We're frustrated when we see that despite those measures people are still going outside and panic buying and the like. We especially feel sorry for the next hit country in Europe, Spain. Stay strong, lads. Some people here have started to have anti-EU sentiments after some problems we had with the ECB, and we try to stay positive by thinking that, given that we were one of the first countries to get the disease, we might be among the first to recover and have a head start when it comes to production and exports. And we hope that we have a head start on the economy as a whole. Closed. Barber shops. Closed. Your favorite restaurant. Closed. You get the picture. If I didn't have the base, I have no idea how I'd still be healthy. The world needs to take drastic measures if it's going to get better. Some countries would rather keep their way of life than make a change, and it's very unfortunate. I'm a New Zealander and even our local gangs have quarantined their drug dealers. I mean, if they feel concerned, then maybe the rest of the world should take a few notes, lol. Sadly, it's gonna be a while until my next high. Mongolian here. Seems like our country did a very good job on handling the pandemic. As soon as Wuhan reported the virus, every school, kindergarten, unis and colleges went on a lockdown that was on 29th of January, I think. Until 1st of March, everything was going smoothly with no cases reported until some guy from France decided to bring in the virus with him. News outlets were saying the French guy had symptoms when entered the country but ignored the precautions, but I don't know whether it's true or not. The lockdown was extended to 2nd of April later and to 1st of May a week ago. Despite the fact that we are very close to the epicenter of the disease and having only 5 confirmed cases, I'd say our government did a phenomenal job. Island here. Got to say I'm proud of my government's response. Sure, we waited until it was at our shores and there was a few confirmed cases before taking action, but the people really pulled together by staying apart. Almost 20 days after our first infection, and although there was 10 deaths yesterday, that was more than all days previous combined. The government has issued emergency payment to anyone out of work and has nationalized the private healthcare system, which doubled our capacity for hospitalizations. I fear the worst is yet to come, but it certainly looks like we have flattened the curve to a manageable degree. Fast forward 7 days and the effing president of France speaks at the nation declaring national emergency and talking of war against an invisible enemy. I'll sincerely hope that, after defying this, things people start to trust others on critical matters like life and risks like this. A lot of innocent people died only because some governments acted as know-it-alls. And that's an incredible shame. Sorry if my English isn't that correct. Be safe. Italian here. Just baffled that other countries didn't look at us when it was starting and think, we should probably do something or we might be fucked. I mean, we didn't do nothing when it started in China either. Well, too late now. Please be safe and stay home. South Africa here. I am happy with the way our government handled our lockdown. I think most countries have been handling it poorly. People like to blame China because they need someone to blame. But it isn't like we had no warnings and this came unexpected. As soon as Wuhan was put on complete lockdown, everyone should have been alarmed and countries should have stopped flights to and from China immediately, as well as start testing people. Some Asian countries like South Korea did a great job, but most countries just didn't care until it started hitting Italy and Europe heavily. That was over a month time to prepare. It was also just after Italy put the country on complete lockdown that other countries slowly followed the example. Many with less strict rules than Italy. Those countries that waited longest to react, and spend their money rather on military than healthcare, will have to suffer the most. If China didn't silence the media back in December and let their infected people travel everywhere, there wouldn't even be a global problem. Fuck the CCP. I think NZ is doing well under the circumstances. Japan here. Japan for a week or so believed itself almost immune to COVID-19. There were multiple things on Twitter blowing up about how people were saying that because the Japanese were hygienic and washed their hands, wore masks regularly, the virus hadn't spread rapidly. However, a lot of other people believed that they were actually artificially keeping the numbers low because they wanted the Olympics to go ahead. There were reports of a lot of people being turned away for testing. In the last few days, Tokyo's numbers have doubled, and are speeding up at an alarming pace. Japan has like no time to react, and today Prime Minister Abe came out saying a lockdown would be bad for the economy. So, we learned nothing. I'm Italian, but I have been in the Netherlands for the whole pandemic, so I don't have first-hand experience. I feel like here they are making the same mistakes the Italian government, only they are doing them knowingly. Here they will not check you for coronavirus if you are not dying, and if you die of pneumonia, which is a symptom of coronavirus, they'll just say that you die of pneumonia without testing. They are downplaying the epidemic and endangering a lot of people so the economy doesn't crash. The only measures that were taken are closing schools and forbidding groups of more than 3 people to walk together, but controls are not common. I don't know much about the rest of the world, but I think that measures should have been taken when Italy declared emergency, not when the number of infected became critical. Also, it's shameful that of all European countries that are part of the EU, it's China who's helping Italy the most during this crisis. US friend of mine living in Brescia has been alerting her friends and family at home on FB about the spread of the disease in Italy, with pictures and precise reports of what she was seeing daily, only to have them comment on how crazy she was, how weak Italian people were, and how this little flu would never reach the US, let alone kill anyone there. Needless to say that a few weeks later, they are way more nuanced. Copy pasting from her FB. Maybe it doesn't kill commies only after all. Everyone 2/3 weeks ago. Italy is handling it badly, everyone now. So, we decided to handle the situation like Italy. Like, don't you see what happens here? Our healthcare was ranked 2nd in the world and it's still overwhelmed. Imagine without free Medicare. My best advice is close up instantly. Also, to the rest of Europe, their news, it's like reading a newspaper from the past. Italian here. A lot of countries had a 7-10 days warning and did nothing because her derma economy. It's sad that so much suffering could have been prevented, but some assholes on top didn't wanna listen to reason and scientists, either because they are stupid or they saw it as an opportunity to make money. I'm Danish, and reading these responses, it truly pisses me off when I hear some Danes bitch about how the lockdown of Denmark is an infringement on their human rights. Okay dipshit, but if you want any human rights after this is over and not become a corpse in a statistic, I suggest you shut your cunt. Sit down and act like a fucking adult. I cannot believe some people. Stay the fuck at home. Of course, Italy underestimated the situation at first and was slow to react too. However, it seemed something quite distant from us, and when it arrived here the government and people didn't know exactly what to do and how to deal with it. It was something almost unprecedented. Europe and the US had before their eyes a living example of what this virus does, how it can affect a country, and what measures had to be put in place in order to contain it. And they were lucky, in a sense, to have this piece of information with a 7-10 days advantage. Yet they still managed to react when the horse had already bolted. South African here. We just started our 3-week lockdown today at just over 900 confirmed cases, and everyone seems to be happy about it. It was a very quick response that will hopefully prevent it from getting into our townships. Those areas tend to have very poor living conditions and hygiene, and a big percentage of people who are already immunocompromised with TB and HIV. And the memes are fantastic at the moment. Indian here. I think our government learned from Europe and put us under complete lockdown for 21 days as of now. They are doing pretty well in terms of supplies, but still they can do more in terms of hospital building. Now they are converting stadium and train into quarantine area. I live Closaby, Bergamo. Everyone believes, as far as I know, that most countries reacted slow and did the same mistakes we did. If everyone would have just taken this seriously, many lives would have been and would be saved in the future. However, governments chose to keep the countries open as long as possible to not have more severe economical repercussions. At this stage most Italians are really focused themselves, except the brief mention of cases in other countries in the mainstream media. Stay home, stay safe, hands pressed together. I managed to get back home in Scotland. I confess that before going to Italy I didn't have a clear understanding of how exactly serious the situation was. My main problem, coming back, was that people didn't believe me. They kept on saying the info was fake, exaggerated. Still now I know of people meeting with friends. This honestly drives me so crazy that I thought I would have been less likely to get the virus quarantining with my family in Italy than here. Honestly, stay safe and stay inside FFS. I am from Slovakia, and I think that even though we are a small and compared to Germany etc. Less economically developed country. We are handling this very well. We had the first precautions even before the virus got here, and our gov never waited with decisions such as the closing of schools, inessential businesses and so on. And they plan to enjoy cherry blossoms as always. They think just wearing masks is going to protect them. But I honestly can't blame it on the population. It's the government that must force people to do something. Otherwise people will just go on with their life. Especially with the work environment in Japan. Self-quarantine is never going to happen. Not Italian. Our government saw what was happening in Italy and with many similar dynamics decided to shut down quickly. So far we're lucky. 892 cases. 27 deaths. Very slow growth rate it seems. All that I'm reading. No panic buying. No panic generally. Just stay at home. Walk the dog. Work from home. All shops closed. Bars, restaurants and other non-essentials. Schools have been closed since first case. No stockpiling or anything silly. I feel safe. I feel cared for. The ones that defy the WHO are doing the best. Patiently waiting for the Italians to answer BC. I'm genuinely curious. We will all end up the same because of selfish idiots who chose to not heed the warning. I'm an Irishman living in Australia. From the feedback I'm getting from friends and family in my home country, I feel like Australia is a week or two behind Ireland in receiving the same results. I feel in my gut that most countries will end up like Italy, China and the USA, and we will all have to pick up the pieces. I hope I'm wrong. It's just hard to be optimistic with so little good news from this. Stay safe everyone and good luck. Let's hope we come out the other end together. South African here. We shut things down in the first week after 60 plus cases. Then in the second week after 400 plus full lockdown was announced, and now as of today we are in total lockdown with 927 cases and 3 deaths. We could have acted faster, but I believe we acted faster than most countries. Fuck no, we cannot. Just stay at home. Do not go out. In Italy we risk a fine from some hundreds of euros to 4,000 euros. Or even detention. If we break the new laws. We can't even go out for a stroll. There must be a serious and reasonable motive for one to go out. If it's not regarded as a necessity, and trust me, walking and running are not necessities, then you lose money and are sent home once again. Why did it take so much for you to close down? I was terrified to see stadiums full of people for Champions League. Guys, we have the army that needs to move bodies from Bergamo to other cities because the crematorium can't run fast enough. There is a town that in previous years averaged 35 deaths from January to March. This year they registered 158 deaths. And only 31 of those are officially by COVID. There's shortage of coffins. And of funeral directors. Because they are getting sick as well. This is fucking serious. I live in Czech Republic and I am very happy with how the government is handling the situation. Poland, my home country though, seems to take the issue less seriously because they don't want the elections to be delayed. I am very worried for my parents and my sister-in-law who is a nurse. I have family in Milan. I was following Italian news outlets as this was starting. It was incredibly stressful seeing this gradually ramp up while Norway was doing nothing. There was this strong mentality of this is not our problem. As it begun to spread here, finally Norway went into lockdown 12th of March. I have Norwegian friends that live in England who are experiencing that same fear I initially had of why isn't our government doing anything. There seems to be this constant lag caused by world leaders not truly understanding the magnitude of this, or just not wanting to risk their economy. Edit. The meme "rip to your grandma but I'm different" is now real life. In Italy we decided to do whatever it takes to stop the infection regardless of the economical repercussions, even though we initially underestimated what would have been sufficient to stop it. I can't understand how some countries ever considered that they could do nothing. That would have caused huge amounts of deaths just for almost nothing. I am glad everyone came to reason, but they wasted precious time and people have died because of that. Greek here. Our government had a super fast reaction to the whole situation and forced us to stay home when the deaths in our country were less than 10. 1 week later and less than 30 people have died in our country out of the 1,000,000 we have. So not all countries reacted late. I'm Brazilian and I'm fucking pissed with what Jair Bolsonaro, current president, said. That MF said that coronavirus is just another flu and that we shall continue our normal lives. I'm so fucking lucky I moved to Canada before this happened. But I'm worried ASF for my friends and family that are out there partying and not knowing what's creeping behind the corner just waiting to get inside of you.